Oh, yeah. No one's here yet. Oh, yeah. Three people. Here we go. Here we go. Let's get excited about how sad the Knicks are. Am I right? I'm not sad. This is okay. Joe Yolk here. Mill's out and about, living her life on a Saturday. You know, young girls got to do big things the day before New Year's. I got no life. I'm home with two dogs and my fiance. The Knicks take a huge L, but they won today, baby. They won in my heart because I've been the biggest OG believer. I believe in 2 or 3 years. That's a Knicks fan in any way, shape, or form. OG Anunoby, Jalen Williams, Alperen Sengun are three dudes I want on this team one day. We're 1/3 of the way there. But first, in the meantime, let's talk about the Knicks and the Pacers. 141 to 26. They take an L. The evil man himself, Tyrese Halliburton. Oh my God. What does this dude get? 22 and 23? 23 assists. Right after he got 20 assists, he became like the second or third person ever to get 20 assists and no turnovers in a game. Follows up with 23 assists. Stares Wally Zerbiak down in the front row. I get it. I get it, Wally. I would stand up for my woman too if it meant the guy would snub her for getting a pregame interview. You got to do what you got to do. Wow, I don't. You feel so much today, you know? Like, this is the biggest trade the Knicks have made in a few years. Like, this is bigger than Josh Hart, obviously. OG Anunoby, Precious Achua, Malachi Flynn for RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley, and only 1 second-round pick. A Detroit second. The Knicks could still have up to 5 picks this year. They're not getting the Washington pick. They're not getting the Detroit pick. But in essence, they could have up to 5 picks this year. Let's get into the game, though, before I get too excited. Julius Randle doing his thing, bully balling around, 28 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists. You could tell the Knicks looked pretty slow. Randle wanted to go at Obi whenever Obi was out there on the court. Obi actually got 9 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists. It's back-to-back games for Obi topping on the Pacers, getting over 8 rebounds in the game, which was one of the biggest concerns we ever had with him as a Knick, and why Tibbs never wanted to play him was his rebounding, his lackluster rebounding. Man, there's so much. So much is going on right now in my head. So much has got to be going on in all of our heads as Knicks fans. Dante DiVincenzo with a career high, 38 points. The guy went 7 of 10 from three. Unless I missed one, he might have ended up 8 for 11. I turned it off like with 3 minutes left because they were losing by 15. And I wanted to start this, baby. I wanted to start talking and figure out how the hell StreamYard works. Both of those things. Jalen Brunson, 28 points, played almost 41 minutes. The Knicks had an 8-man rotation today, and with one of those 8 guys being Evan Fournier and another one of those 8 guys being Taj Gibson, it was really, really starter heavy. It's just, man, I'm so lost. I really don't even know where to begin or where to end. It's just so much. Benedict Mathurin, who I love, got 20 points for the Pacers. Let's actually talk about the game a little bit before I dive into what I think of the trade. The Pacers like to run. We all know that. Number 1 offense in the league, one of the fastest paced teams. The Kings set the record for offensive efficiency last year, and the Kings would actually be 4th all time this season ended today. I believe the Pacers, the Bucks, and one other team, maybe OKC, would be passing them for all time with offensive efficiency, the Pacers being the best of all time. Tyrese Halliburton's not a wannabe all-star. He's just an all-star. It is what it is. He might already be a top 10 player in the league. He's another guy that just really puts a lot of his focus and effort into one side of the court. He's fun to watch defensively once in a while to do the DiVincenzo, try to jump a passing lane, but the guy's all offense all the time. He wants the ball in his hands. He wants to run and gun. Beautiful. It is beautiful. It's hard to watch, honestly, as a fan. And as a fan, I mean like as a fan of the Knicks, not a fan of the NBA. Miles Turner could not miss, unfortunately, which really, really sucked. Vin and Almighty, what's good? How you guys doing? The Knicks don't cover the three-point line, as we all know, which is where OG Anunoby is hopefully going to help out a lot. Precious Achua is 6'8" and more of a 4 than a 5, but he can play both. So hopefully he can be a little bit better covering the perimeter against deep shooting teams, against teams that want to space. And because Hartenstein isn't going to do it, and Tibbs as a whole does not want his center to be at the three-point line, which is why you go up against a Miles Turner and he makes 6 threes, and you go up against the team that plays Toppin at the 4 or the 5, and Toppin makes 2 threes, and Naismith makes 5 threes, and Nembhard makes 4 threes. I think Naismith ended up with like 6 threes. I think it was also his career high. This was just playing Indy, even with a full strength team on the second night of a back-to-back, was going to be rough. They're just too young and too fast. It was going to be a struggle for the Knicks no matter what. And then to play with this 8-man lineup, Randall with 39 minutes, Josh Hart with almost 38, Hart with 33, Brunson with almost 41, DiVincenzo with 36, McBride, Evan, and Fournier both at 17, and Taj with 14 minutes. And then 4 guys, Archie, Charlie Brown Jr., Dimitrios Skapitsensiv, I'll say his name right one day, and the younger Toppin, Jacob Toppin, who got an assist. Let's go, man. First stat as an NBA player. That's actually pretty cool. Against your brother, no less. All got a minute each at the end when they called off the Wolves. Called off the Dogs. This was going to be hard. Even if they had RJ Barrett, even if they had Emmanuel Quickley, even if there was no trade, the second night of a back-to-back, the last game of the year, 3-game road trip. The Knicks played 11 out of 14 games this month on the road. I believe they ended the month 5-6-8 or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. So this was always going to be hard. December was always going to be their hardest month. And I have faith in them to definitely pick it up. One of my predictions, I did it on Threads, not Twitter. I'm sorry. Threads is a more calming and fun app to use, I feel like now. That's why I'm not on Twitter as much. But I said on Threads, if the Knicks even went 6-7 or 5-8, they're still in a prime position to get a 4 through 6 seed. If the season ended today, the Knicks would actually be in the 8th place. They're currently behind, outside of the big 3, which is Philly, Milwaukee, Boston, who they'll never catch. Orlando's 19-12, Miami's 19-13, Cleveland's 18-14, Indy is 17-14, the Knicks are 17-15. You know what's really crazy about what happened today? For anyone that didn't see it, Toronto lost to the Detroit Pistons. Detroit finally ended their 28-game losing streak. Wow. I thought they were going to break a record, man. It was crazy. I really thought they were going to do it, but Toronto was also on the second night of a back-to-back. They also obviously depleted their bench to make the trade today. And Detroit had to win sometime, so good for them. Jeet says, our bench looks hideous now. Grimes was out, was a really, really late scratch. The losing streak record is 28 games for all of professional sports. Just so you know. Almighty literally just asked what the losing streak record is. It's 28. Detroit tied it, I believe, with a MLB team. I think they broke the record for the NBA by 1. I think a baseball team from the 1800s had a 28-game losing streak, so now they're tied. They set American futility. So that's wild. But to go back to what G said, our bench looks hideous now. So Quentin Grimes was a late scratch for non-COVID illness, which is why Evan Fournier got minutes. Taj Gibson we signed because of injuries to Mitchell Robinson and Jericho Sims. And now, ideally, Taj is almost never going to play with Precious Achiuwa being the backup 5. And Jericho Sims comes back hopefully in another week. And I don't think Mitchell Robinson is done for the year. I know they applied for the disabled player exemption. There's no shot they would get that. The guy said it was supposedly an 8 to 10 week injury and surgery. And June 15th is like 30 or 21 weeks after his surgery, which you'd have to be deemed not able to play, more likely than not to not come back by June 15th by an independent doctor for the NBA, not for the Knicks. So I don't think the Knicks are going to get that. And I think Mitchell Robinson honestly could come back in 3 months still. So I wouldn't be surprised if he actually did come back at some point. So then if that's the case, even if it's not, we have Ihart, Precious Achiuwa, and then Taj Gibson as like an extreme in case of glass or in case of emergency center rotation. We're going to have now Josh Hart, Julius Randle, and OG Anunoby all able to play the 4, with Randle being the primary 4. OG most likely slotting into the starting 3, and Hart coming off the bench to spell both of them. But OG is actually 6'7" with a 7'2" wingspan. And most importantly, one of the 3 best defenders, the best perimeter defenders in all of the NBA. He got a second team All NBA defensive. He made all second team All defense last year over like Giannis Antetokounmpo and Jason Tatum, who usually just would get that award just from namesake alone. Like OG Anunoby is not an offensively gifted player. For anyone that doesn't watch this dude, if you're watching the guy and you're like, this isn't RJ Barrett, he's not driving as well. What the gives? He's better cutting. He's way better off ball, significantly better 3-point shooter, which I think at the end of the day, no matter what was going to happen with RJ and Julius Randle on the same team, they were never going to work out. They weren't. They want to do the same things on the court, and Randle's better at it. They want to get to similar spots. Neither one of them is a good 3-point shooter. They both actually prevent the other one from getting spacing. From both of them being out there, plus the Knicks always playing a 5 that doesn't stretch the floor or shoot 3-pointers. That's terrible spacing for modern day basketball. It's honestly amazing that they keep having a winning record and keep churning out W's year in and year out under Tom Thibodeau because of his insistence on how to play basketball in the modern day NBA, and then the fact that they never had floor spacing. The Knicks now have great floor spacing. Jalen Brunson, Dante DiVincenzo, OG Anunoby, Julius Randle, and iHeart is going to allow for much more room and movement within the game offensively itself. They'll be able to run better motions off ball. If they actually choose to do that is another thing entirely. It's like OG Anunoby is like if you stretched out Josh Hart and made him better at shooting. Think of how valuable that player is. You don't need a bunch of dudes to want to jack up 20 shots a game. I'm so sick. I was so done with seeing RJ Barrett going 5 for 17 over and over and over again. I'm so sick of seeing a dude jack up 8 threes to go 2 for 8. I want to see a dude jack up 8 threes that's going to go 5 for 8. And that's all I wanted. I just want to see a guy that makes sense for the team we're on currently. Kareem, what up? Tough loss. I thought we could have pulled out a dub tonight. I mean, dude, the first half, before they had really tired legs and before they started complaining to the refs and before all those shots started hitting front iron, which you could tell with Brunson specifically, I streamed most of the games. So I was actually watching the Bally Sports Indiana broadcast, and they like the opposing announcers are like, you could tell the Knicks are tired because if Jalen Brunson's short-arming shots from the 3-point line and hitting the front of the rim, you could really tell. G Money, what up? How you doing? Good to see you again. Happy New Year. Blessed ones up to you and your family. But yeah, I was watching their game or their telecast, and you could tell they literally said the Knicks seemed like they're on tired legs. We played an 8-man rotation. They played a 10-man rotation. Their starters got 30 minutes, 20, 31. Tyrese got 36, who led the team, obviously. Nembhard got 33. Naismith and Nembhard are like a dynamic duo of guys with similar names. Aaron Naismith and Andrew Nembhard. I like watching, like if the Pacers weren't the Pacers, they would be one of my like favorite league pass teams to watch. They're Knicks rivals. I just grew up with them being Knicks rivals. Like when I first started watching basketball, it was with Reggie Miller going up against like the end of Patrick Ewing and John Starks, and then the beginning of Latrell Sprewell and the mid and end of Allen Houston. And then to see the Pacers knock out Melo like 10 years ago now, 2012, 2013. Like, I can't cheer for the Pacers, but the team is really fun if you just close your eyes and pretend they have a different jersey on. Mathurin, dude, Benedict Mathurin's just a straight shooter. 20 points. I want to click on his whole thing. 20 points, 7 of 10, 3 for 5 from 3, 3 for 3 from the line. No rebounds, no assists, no blocks, no steals. All that this dude was doing was shooting out there. No other job. Quentin Grimes Kareem asked what happened to Quentin Grimes. Late scratch. They said he had a non-COVID illness. I know some people are like recklessly speculating that like, oh my God, it's probably a second deal. Like they probably didn't want to get Grimes injured or anything like that. Like we literally just watched them play IQ and RJ last night and then made this deal today. So I don't think that they would be like against playing Grimes. I really just think he was probably felt sick or something like that and actually had a non-COVID illness. And they sat him out. I mean, they were already 4.5 point underdogs going into the game. Second night of a back-to-back, you're playing shorthanded. Like, at the end of the day, this is like a schedule loss. If there was ever a schedule loss to be had, especially against Tyrese Halliburton and the Pacers, and Tyrese had extra motivation, not even against the Knicks themselves, against Wally Szczerbiak, who was sitting front row doing the game because Clyde doesn't go to all the away games anymore. This was a schedule loss for sure to be had, unfortunately. Kareem then goes, I could never like the Pacers, too much blood. I still have love for Obi. Exactly. I mean, you can't say it better than that. I want to take pat on the back. I don't know if this. I know a lot of anti fans before were like, Obi Toppin's going to go to the Pacers and average 30 minutes a game, and like going to show up that he's better than Julius Randle. The guy doesn't start anymore. He's not even a starter on their team. He's literally back to the. I mean, he's getting a little more minutes. He plays like 20 to 22 minutes a game now for the Pacers, but the beginning of the year, he was starting at 26, and it's gone down more and more as they start Jalen Smith and give him more time now, and they give Isaiah Jackson 8 to 10 minutes a game. So, I mean, Obi, one thing I predicted about Obi was that when they made the trade to the Pacers, I said that Obi Toppin might get a little bag, but it's also not going to be from Indiana. This was always a deal. Indiana wanted him last year. You give out 2 late second-round picks 3 years from now, that's a flyer. You're sending a couple flyers out for a guy to see what he can do for your team, see how much he matches up. Obi Toppin, I think, is going to hopefully end up on a team that's like a powerhouse team, like a LeBron James type led team, not necessarily the Lakers, but like one of those upper echelon teams that needs to fill out the cracks of their roster like the Suns did, or like the Bucks have to do after having Dame and Giannis and Middleton on their books. He can go to a team like that for 8 to 10 mil a year, maybe a little more. And then that's when he's playing 25 minutes because he's actually the 5th best player on the team, because they're a top 1 or 2 of this hypothetical team is 2 of the top 20 or 30 players in the NBA. That's when teams are constructed, the championship teams are generally constructed that they have 2 max guys, which the Knicks have 0 max guys. Just remember, 2 max guys, and then everyone else is making mid-level exception money or less, 12 to 15 mil. So that's one thing I predicted about Obi. It's kind of coming to fruition. I was wrong about Jarris Walker being the one getting minutes over him. It's been Jalen Smith, but whatever. Then goes Precious Achiuwa is going to be the steal of the trade. I hope so. Precious Achiuwa hasn't been getting a lot of run recently for Toronto, so that is that's going to be something for sure. I really hope he actually becomes semi more useful than what he has been. I don't know though. I honestly I watched enough Raptors games because I've been such a fan of OG Anunoby, but they run Pirtle a lot. Obviously, as their starting center, they traded him for last offseason for a first and then gave him a bag. So it's kind of hard to imagine that Precious Achiuwa was going to get a lot of time because they also are actually a team that's another one that's willing to play 5 out. They play Boucher at the 5 sometimes. They just do other stuff that we wouldn't do. So I'm looking at Precious's stats real quick just to actually see where we're at. People from New York should love this, though. He actually went to high school in Our Savior Lutheran in the Bronx, New York. That's one of the 3 high schools he went to. And went to St. Benedict's Prep. So that's exciting. Connor, what other moves do you think they'll make? I'll answer in 1 second once I figure up Precious's numbers. Yeah, so here we go. So Precious this year, he's at 17 minutes a game. He's played in 25 of the games that they played. What are we looking at? 8 points, a half block, a half steal, 2 assists, 8 points, 5 rebounds a game in 17 minutes. That's solid backup 4-5 time. That's all you can ask for. If you want to look at it from a per 36, see what it looked like if he actually played a starter's level of minutes. He averages 16 and 11 if he was to play a full game. So that's perfect. That's all you need. I mean, again, ideally, Ihart comes back. Ihart's going to stay in. Ideally, I still think Mitch comes back in March. I don't think he misses the whole year. I think he's back before the postseason. And Sims and Taj are kind of whatever. like Sims can get still some run. There's like you can play Precious in the back of 4 a little bit, stop making Hart jump up. You don't need to make OG jump up as much, even though he's able to cover literally 1 through 5. If you look up I know Tommy Beer, someone posted before the 14 people that OG Anunoby covered the most last year, the top 14. Just to put in perspective, it had Donovan Mitchell and Giannis and Nikola Jokic all on the same list. So that is a dude that can cover 1 through 5, literally cover 1 through 5. So he could, but Tibbs would never play him at the 5. Connor goes, what other moves do you think they'll make? With the team they have now, and the fact they still have all the first-round picks to deal, they only had to give up a second-round pick. And realistically, this trade, like, I think Emmanuel Quickley is awesome. I'm going to miss the crap out of him. I'm going to still continue to watch Toronto Raptors games because now IQ jumps into near the top of my favorite non-Knicks players list. So I'm going to continue to watch them when I can. But so with the team that the Knicks have now, I really think DeJounte Murray is somewhat on the table. Like, I'm trying to speculate. Like, why would Leon Rose and Rich Paul, after all this time, finally want to meet up or be willing to meet up or even be in semi-talks of meeting up and doing something? And if it's not DeJounte Murray or Zach LaVine, I don't think it would be happening right now. You know, DeJounte Murray supposedly could go. I mean, he could be used in a lot of places. Like Houston could still use another ball handler. One of the podcasts I was listening to, I think it might have been Kevin O'Connor or maybe someone else from the Ringer, one of those Ringer podcasts, was like OKC, which is kind of weird to think about. Like they have Jalen Williams and obviously they have SGA. Why would they want DeJounte Murray? But there's teams that needed a secondary ball handler. The Lakers obviously would love DeJounte Murray. For the love of God, this team is trying to package Rui Hachimura and D'Angelo Russell and their 2029, aka their 2099 first-round pick for literally anything to give LeBron James and Anthony Davis a little bit of a break and have a guy that can close and they can rely on instead of D'Angelo Russell getting 25 one game and getting 4 the next game. Talk about RJ Barrett inconsistency. Jesus Christ. So I think DeJounte Murray is really on the table, and DeJounte Murray and Evan Fournier's money matches up almost perfectly. I literally made a couple fake trades before about like DeJounte Murray or Donovan Mitchell, which I don't think it would be Donovan Mitchell per se. I think Donovan Mitchell might be a off-season thing if it is to still really happen. And I still question like the real fit of Donovan Mitchell and Jalen Brunson together because that's 2 guys that are 6'1" and 6'2". And Donovan Mitchell used to be a much better defender, but now just hasn't since he's had the ball in his hands and he's had so much offensive responsibility. I want Murray. I would be down to get DeJounte Murray. And the deal I made was Evan Fournier, Deuce McBride. I think I put through all 3 protected first-round picks. It was like the Detroit one, the Washington one, the Milwaukee one next year, and then a second-round pick, which means the Knicks still have all their own first-round picks, and they would have the Dallas first-round pick this year. So the Knicks would still have 2 first-round picks this year with this fake trade I make for DeJounte Murray, and they would still have at least one second-round pick this year because now they're going to have to pay a lot of dudes, and you have to finally trade. You have to finally draft rookies. You can't pay everyone on their second or third contract $20-25 million. You immediately get over to the luxury tax threshold, which they've already been at, but they're so close to the hard cap that they're not going to be able to keep all of the dudes that they have. Like iHeart might be gone next year, for example, because iHeart's going to probably get a bag from someone. He's making $9 million right now. He's about to be an unrestricted free agent. So the Knicks are going to have to actually draft rookies. But I think to answer your main question, I think the next move could or should be for DeJounte Murray. Last Laugh podcast. It is what it is. RJ and Quick weren't the big time performers we need. RJ spotty, Quick chokes in the playoffs. I mean, Quick knows the choking in the playoffs thing. Before I read the rest of the thing, OG is a great role player, fits perfectly. Flynn's a great shooter. Precious is solid. I don't know if Flynn is going to get a lot of time on this team. He might jump Deuce immediately in like the pecking order, or if Deuce gets dealt out in another deal, then Flynn actually will get some time. But OG, the word role player is weird. For what it's worth, I think most players in the NBA are role players. Like RJ Barrett was a role player, straight up. If you're not like a top 2 player on your team, you're a role player. Like Austin Reeves is awesome, kind of a role player. Jalen Williams, who's sick. Literally, I didn't talk about Jalen Williams, kind of a role player right now. Like the word role player, people think of, you say role player, and it's like, oh, it's Josh Hart. It's Patrick Beverley. It's Jakob Perl. It's like a dude that's like getting 10 points and like 4 or 5 of their secondary stat, or if you're a big, like 8 or 9 rebounds a game. A role player is just anyone that's not one of the best players on your team. We're not one of the best 2. I'm expecting you to get 25 and 10 or 28 and 6 in efficient shooting every night. Most players are role players. So if you want to consider OG a role player, he's like one of the best role players in the NBA because he's not a top 2 in your team. He's never going to be a top 2 in your team. No, the last live, I'm agreeing with you. That's exactly what I'm explaining. Because I think a lot of people hear the word role player and they're like, and they get mad at hearing that phrase. Like, why are we going to pay a role player 30 mil? Or why would you give a role player 35 mil? Most teams, Fred VanVleet is getting $40 million. You know what I mean? OG Anunoby was trying to ask for $40 million. And now it's come out that by going to New York and Sam Rose being his agent, AKA Leon Rose's son, maybe he'll take a discount. And a discount for this guy might be $32 million a year instead of $40 million a year. He literally is the best version of a role player. Has he had complaints about wanting to have a better role in Toronto sometimes? Yes, everyone complains. Everyone complains. Always about like, I want more shots. I want the ball in my hand more. Like Scotty Barnes, Pascal Siakam, and OG Anunoby was the most redundancy maybe in the whole league, honestly. Like Toronto couldn't get out of their own way. Toronto's currently 12-20, and they just lost to the Pistons. Granted, it was after the trade, so they were 12-19 with the team they had. I don't think Darko is a good coach. Definitely not nearly as good as Nick Nurse, that's for sure. I don't think the Knicks are going to have to worry about the Raptors taking 2 of 3 or 3 of 4 every year, even when the Raptors suck anymore. Because the downfall from Nick Nurse to Darko is extraordinary. So that's going to be a good thing. But yeah, so like they were so redundant. Like OG had to get out. Scotty Barnes was given the ball because he's the 4th overall pick. They try to turn him into a point guard. Like they have Dennis Schroeder, but like they run Scotty Barnes to their backup point when Schroeder's not out there. Like they just had to get rid of one of these guys. I think they still might get rid of Pascal and blow it up altogether. But now it makes sense for Toronto to have IQ, be a ball handler. Like he's going to be a starter. Good for IQ, man. And I'm happy for that. That's not a sarcastic clap. Like I wanted this dude to start so much. A lot of us did. But he just wasn't going to get it here. So, yeah. And OG is going to actually get a role that makes more sense for him because he's going to be the catch and shoot guy. He's going to be able to cut off of a top 5 point guard in the league, or arguably top 5 point guard in the league. And for Dennis Schroeder being more of a distributor passer than Jalen Brunson is, for Dennis Schroeder being the FIBA MVP and winning a gold medal for Germany, he's not a top 5 point guard in the league. Like he just wasn't the guy that was going to be setting everyone up when Scotty Barnes isn't out there. And Pascal Siakam's the guy that gets the ball with 4 seconds left in the game or in the shot clock. Take the last shot. It was never going to be OG. So it's great for him in his career to get out of Toronto and get out of that clusterfuck. Last Laugh also wrote, go get Miles Turner. We need a center who can space the floor. Does all that Mitch does, but actually can be useful in the offense outside of a screen and lob, unlike Mitch. You need to space the floor. I don't think Indy is going to deal, because they finally gave Miles Turner a larger contract this offseason after Miles Turner was literally in trade rumors for like 7 years straight. Miles Turner was in trade rumors before Domantas Sabonis was in trade rumors for Indiana. And that trade was over a year ago now. Like, was it 2 years ago now? 2 years ago now. It's so long ago. Like, I think how crazy that is, that he's been in trade rumors for so long and just never got traded. And Indiana's finally going to make the first playoffs in a little while. They're 17-14. They're set to make the play-in. Like, they just beat us, which we're going to be competing for seeding, obviously. Like, I don't think they're going to deal Miles Turner because they need a stretch 5 for what they do with Tyrese Halliburton and like just running and gunning. You know what I mean? So I don't think he'll be the most available. The stretch 5 that I hear the most, like that has seemed realistic, is Kelly Olynyk, because Utah is more likely to want to just deal stuff and try to get more assets for what they have, because they're not going to be they're not going to be the ones that like are making the playoffs, trying to make a push or anything. The Lauri Markkanen thing, I think, is really far fetched. I would imagine if you're Danny Ainge, you want to hang on to at least your best player and try to build around him while he's 26 years old. But yeah, I would probably want to get Kelly Olynyk or another dude like that. There's rumblings that Jared Allen would be available from Cleveland, which that does the exact opposite of helping you space the floor, but he is a better version of what iHeart is. A worse version of what Mitchell Robinson is defensively, but yeah, I don't know. I would, I'd probably say if from a big standpoint, I think we're going to give Precious a chance. Precious isn't a 3-point shooter. He has taken threes before. And what's funny is that his second year in the league, I'm just looking at it right now, he shot 36% from three. From 21-22, he shot 36%. 22-23, he shot 27%. And this year, he's shooting almost 28%. So, in essence, if you're going to let the guy take a couple and they don't let iHeart take more than one every 2 weeks, right? Maybe you go let Precious Achiuwa take two every 2 weeks. See if that helps a little bit. But overall, that's not where they're going to get their spacing from, unfortunately. As much as I would love to get a center that can space the floor and does all the things that's outside of a screen and a lob, they're not going to, like, Tibbs isn't going to do it, and the Knicks aren't going to do it. So this is while we're still having this coach, and unless Tibbs either crashes into the floor, which if he was going to be fired, it probably would have been 10 games into last year, but then he benched Fournier and Cam and Derrick Rose and withstood that and then went on a run, and now here we are, still with Tom Thibodeau, who just left this, who was the coach, I'm not going to say the lettuce, who was the coach of a second-round playoff team and who will never advocate for a floor spacing center, so I don't think that's going to be what happens. Unfortunately, as much as I would love that, because I would sure as hell love that. One day, though. One day. Alperen Sengun, come to New York, buddy. I know you're going to be a Raptor for the next 10 years at least, but just ask out, man. Just ask out. One can dream. Yeah, I really didn't. I honestly, I watched the whole Pacers-Knicks game. I didn't really care. Straight up. I felt the Knicks were going to lose. We were playing the guys too much. I was really hoping that Jacob Toppin would just get 8 minutes. I just want to see him out there. This dude has killed in the G League. His brother's on the other team. You're expected to lose the game. Why not have a little fun, right? Isn't this the type of day that you go 12 deep on your bench and then just see what happens? You were never going to win this. Why not experiment? Tibbs, why not experiment with a different haircut, man? You have 12 hairs on the top of your head. Just shave them off. Just get rid of it and try some new stuff. It's never too late. It's never too late to get a girlfriend either, dude. One day, Stop crunching film at 4 a.m. Maybe you'd figure out some new stuff. And it can't all be from 1999 because that's what it seems like it is sometimes. Tibbs is still watching the old Knicks Heat tape from 1996 and seeing what he can learn from it. Man, I'm so excited. OG Anunoby. Do you guys want to hear OG's Anunoby's stats? Because none of them actually sound great if you don't watch the game or if you don't ever watch the Raptors. Because, again, he's not the first or the second guy to get the ball, but he is so good at defense. You guys know that OG Anunoby held in back-to-back games Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid to under 40% shooting last year at some point. Granted, they only took 5 shots against them total or 6 shots against them total, but I'm pretty sure they went 2 for 6 combined. So how many other dudes in the league could say that when they're only 6'7" against the 2 best 7-footers in the whole NBA? Am I right? OG's stats. Here we go. Where am I looking? My computer wants to move slow, but I am on Basketball Reference. It's trying. You know what sucks about this right now is that it literally is trying to show me Tyrese Halliburton's assists in the corner of this. I don't want to see Tyrese Halliburton assists. I just had to watch too many. What the hell? All right, here we go. Last 4 years, he's played over 33 minutes a game. The guy averages 56% shooting from 2 for his career, not even just this year. I can just say this year, though. He averages 37% from 3. He led the league in steals 2 years ago at 1.9, or last year at 1.9 when he made the second team All-NBA defense. He's averaging a steal, a half blocks, 1.5 stocks a game, He's averaging 15 points, but he shoots 49% from the field and averaging only 15 points, which basically means he doesn't try to jack the ball all the time, which from an RJ Barrett standpoint, that's all we could ever really ask for. It was like, hey, when you don't have it going, stop shooting. And or if you do keep shooting, stop holding your hand up so goddamn long and try to follow up your own miss and get an offensive rebound once in a while. Because whenever you do miss the corner three, it's usually short and it's bouncing right back to you. But because you held your hand up so long, you're not the one that got it. So at least we don't have to see that anymore. That's really exciting. And no one cares about advanced stats, but I'm just going to tell you really quick what his defensive rating is as soon as it loads, because that's probably the only thing I really want to say. Just for perspective, a lot of players have like 120 defensive ratings when they're bad at defense. His career defensive rating is a 110, which in today's NBA, way better. That's all you can ask for. And this year, what's funny is that part of the reason why they were able to get him for as cheap as they did, this year it's been 117, which isn't even that good. So maybe he actually helped get himself out of New York. And that's all you can ask for, because now we have OG Anunoby in New York and we don't have RJ Barrett, and we still have all of our first round picks. And Precious Achiuwa is going to get minutes instead of Taj Gibson. And the Knicks are going to get a top 6 seed, and then we'll be able to fight in the playoffs again. But one thing that might happen, because scriptwriters are real. No, they're not. But if you believe they are, the Knicks getting a 7 or 8 seed, and then the Raptors fighting for a 9 or 10 seed, and then the Raptors winning the first play-in game, the Knicks losing the first play-in game. And then in New York, RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley come back to try to end the New York Knicks season in April. Tell me that's not being scripted as we speak. If I've seen anything from professional sports scriptwriters, they love torturing New York fans. So remember hearing this when in the 7-10 matchup on April 20th or whenever it is, RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley come into New York as 7-point underdogs and help pull off the major upset with Scotty Barnes and Pascal Siakam both putting up 20 points and Emmanuel Quickley scoring 25 off the bench, screaming and skipping down the road. I hope that doesn't happen. Fingers crossed it doesn't happen. OG Anunoby puts the clamps in everyone, and we have Mitchell Robinson for the playoffs. Book it. You heard it here first. Mitch is not going to be out for the year. I believe that with all my heart. With that, there's no one else leaving any comments or anything. I'm going to sign off and go hang out with my fiance for the rest of the night. Let's go Knicks. Let's keep it going. Not the losing streak going. Let's keep going with making moves. Let's get DeJounte Murray. If you do end up getting Spider, don't send them all the first-round picks, because then you still need a much bigger 2 and a much better 5. DeJounte Murray is going to be cheaper. He's 6'5" with a 6'9" or 6'10" wingspan. Solid secondary ball handler, solid backup point guard. He can spell Brunson, mix and match the minutes better than you usually do Tibbs. And that's all I got to say. And with that, I'm going to sign off of here and enjoy the rest of my night. Happy New Year, everyone. I'm going to be on with Aman Adon, who's the woman that covers the Raptors that we had on in the offseason. We're going to talk. I'm going to go deep diving into the trade with her on the Big Nick Energy podcast on Monday. And we're going to – OJ Martoni just responded, McBride extended, unless this happened literally right this second or something, unless he's saying he wants McBride extended. And I just didn't see it because I'm recording this. Yeah. But yeah, I'm gonna sign off. Sorry, OJ, you got here a little bit late, or you responded on Twitter a little bit late. It's also cool that we have Twitter comments now that actually come in instead of just YouTube. Way to go, StreamYard. Proud of you. But yeah, we're gonna talk about the OG Precious, RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley trade on Monday. Make sure to check out the Dan Favali podcast I just did, and Mills did do a 2-hour. It just happened. Okay, so I'm gonna try to sign on real quick. I'm gonna stay on really fast to look this up. But yeah, Mills did a 2-hour response before to the trade, which I have to still watch and cut that up and post it for Podbean tomorrow. 2 hours is too long. I gotta tell her that. I told her 1 hour is too long, and not to respond to every single comment she gets, but damn, 2 hours. I'm talking about myself for 38 minutes seems hard. The Knicks just locked in Deuce McBride on Fred Katz. Here we go. 3 years, $13 million deal. Nice. That is solid. That's great value for a guy that's going to actually be able to play some minutes now. I am a fan of that. And Deuce McBride has always been one of my favorite players. I cheer for any short dude that plays defense as a short guy that always played defense. So I like this. Of course, the first comment is someone saying, I am done rooting for this team, because this just how sad people want to be all the time. And people don't give a fuck about defense when they watch basketball. They don't watch the NBA for defense. That's why Trae Young has more fans than OG Anunoby, but doesn't mean he's a better player. And with that, and with Deuce McBride getting a 3-year, $13 million extension for the New York Knicks, which, again, that doesn't mean he can't be traded. And maybe it means he can't be traded this year. I don't know what the rules are on that, but everyone is always on the table all the time, especially in the offseason. But I'll be back on with Amon on Monday. And Mill, if you want to hear it, go to our YouTube. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe on our YouTube specifically. But you can get our podcasts and live streams basically everywhere. It's on Twitter. We're going to add it to our Instagram live starting for the next one. And let's go Knicks. Peace. And Deuce